in New York City, where he actually directed his first film called 3D, which was his thesis film that starred Kerry Washington. His work has screened at over 25 film festivals around the world. He's not just a director, he is also a screenwriter and producer. As a TV director, he worked on many, many, many shows like Silicon Valley on HBO, like Insecure, Grey's Anatomy, of course, that we're going to talk about today, Blackish, Mixed-ish, Single Parent, and many, many others that you can find on his website that is actually on the chat box right now. We'll also copy and paste it later. He is also the director of the film Premium. That was his debut feature, which he wrote and directed, that starred Dorian Missick, Zoe Saldana, and Hill Harper, and premiered on Showtime after a limited theatrical run. I see that a lot of people say, I love Blackish. He's the founder of the brand TheDirector, his digital studio, that actually just came out with some very cool merch, by the way, that you can find on his Instagram page. His digital studio has directed, shot, and edited content for advertising agencies and Fortune 500 companies. And he is currently in development of several episodic concepts and feature films while booking episodes for upcoming broadcast and cable and streaming seasons. So welcome and thank you for being here. Our next guest is the beautiful Mac Krish. She's an American actress. She was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and she is also an alumna from Barnard College. She was trained at the Chautauqua Conservatory Theatre Company, at the British American Drama Academy in London, and also at the Actors Center in New York. And she's here with us today because she is best known for her role on the ABC drama hit series Grey's Anatomy, where she plays Dr. Maggie Pierce, the half-sister of Meredith Grey. She also lends her voice to the character Dot in the popular animated series Harvey Girls Forever. She is the host of the female-centric podcast called How It Is that I strongly recommend you to listen to. It's on Apple, on iTunes. There's many, many, many different episodes, and it's very, very interesting. It's called How It Is. Kerry is a triple threat. She's also a singer. She made her Broadway debut in the original musical called Passing Strange. And a lot of her TV credits include Scandal, Castle, Emily Owens, MD, and some of the film credits are Baby, 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 How to Follow Strangers, Being Flynn, opposite Robert De Niro and Paul Dano, the film Life, opposite Robert Pattinson and Dan Dehan. And recently, she starred in 2 short dramas, A Cohort of Guests and The Middle Game. And they both, Pete and Kelly, they're together because they're husband and wife. So it's a first today, and I love that. And they both reside in Los Angeles. So thank you all for being there. And you're actually neighbors with Emma because she's also joining us from LA. She's our weekly co-host. She's a great co-host. We're so happy to have you, Emma. And she will be leading the conversation today. She has been working as an actress for the past 16 years. And you've seen her in The Walking Dead, in Dallas, in the 5th installment of the Final Destination series. And now, like many of you here, because of a lack of interesting roles for women in Hollywood, she decided to write her own content. Actually, she just finished her short film during quarantine time. So congratulations, Emma, on achieving this task, which is not easy. But this time is also for us an opportunity to to surpass ourselves. So congratulations on that. She is now a filmmaker, a writer, and she directed that film called Between the Pines that was selected in multiple film festivals around the world, was awarded Best Short Film Award at the 2019 Chelsea Film Festival, and currently she is in development on her first feature film, and we can't wait to hear more about that, actually. Hopefully it will come out soon as well. And now I'm going to hand it over to you, Emma. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the people who are joining us live on this Zoom and Facebook.
And welcome to everybody else who's come and joined us again this week. It's so special to be able to do this every week, and we're so excited to have our wonderful and talented and lovely guests today. I don't know if you noticed, I am on a little bit of a different setup on my phone because my computer right now is chugging along trying to encode and transcode all of the footage that Ingrid mentioned. My little quarantine short, my poor Mac is, it's not functioning like it should be, but it's okay. It's going to get there. It's going to take longer. But that's the joy of being a creative during this kind of time, right?
Exactly.
So, hi, Pete and Kelly. It's so nice to have you on.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. What a beautiful couple you are. You just came onto my screen, so now I can see it. I guess I'll start with you, Kelly. Firstly, congratulations on being such a big part of such a huge cultural phenomenon show. That show, Grey's, has been on for so many years. It's still so popular. I mean, that's so rare in this industry. So it's wonderful to be a part of that, I'm sure. Did you happen to know at all? Because I read online that your role was originally a guest role, right? Did you happen to know at all that there could be a series regular potential for that? Or was that just something that was like a gift from the universe?
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't know, because the role that I auditioned for was just a doctor without, actually her name was, oh God, Juanita? No, that's not it. Something like that. But they were dummy sides. They were not like the sides that were ever scenes that we shot. And so I just knew that she was a doctor, and I didn't know until minutes before my first table read, which I had not yet seen the script of, which was going to be a cold read, that she was actually Meredith's sister. So when I found that out, I understood that there was probably the potential for her to stick around, but you never know what's going to happen. They'd only invited me to be there as a recurring guest initially. So, you figure, yeah, she's a sister, but she may not last forever. Also, the show is 10 seasons in. Who could imagine it would continue to go on for another 6 seasons? So, so yeah, I mean, I guess there was some inkling, but you never really know.
No, I know. Well, it's always the dream, right? When you get onto a set and you're there in like a guest capacity, and you kind of think to yourself, well, maybe they'll just keep asking me back, and it almost never happens. So that's fantastic. That's really, really cool. So you had no idea that you'd be playing her half sister. That's crazy.
Not when I auditioned. Yeah, no, not until that was such a crazy moment. Actually, Shonda invited me to her office before the first table read, and was like, yeah, so just so you know, this character is Meredith Grey's sister. And I was like, what? No idea. Then, and by the way, nobody else knew either. So when we got to the table read, and it was a cold read for everyone, when I sat down at the table, we read through the script, the reveal did not come until I think the very last scene of the episode. Sorry, you've disappeared. There we go. And so there was just like this eruption, when we read those moments at the table. It was pretty exciting.
Wow, that's so, even like nobody knew, not even the leads of the show? Or
I suspect some people in that room must have known something, but the majority of the people in there did not. It came as a surprise to almost.
Oh my gosh. I wish I had been a fly on that wall. That must have been so cool to see all the reactions from everybody, just you know, blown away. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And so then your character has been on the show ever since. That was 2014. So you've had 6 seasons. Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that is so incredible to be on a show for that long. What a gift, right?
It really is.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, firstly, I started watching the show way back, I guess, almost 15 years now, which is crazy. But why do you think Grey's has stayed so relevant in this current entertainment landscape where we have just so many different streaming options and people's attention spans, I think, are like shorter and shorter and shorter. And so many new shows that get on the air are just not given the opportunity to really like create roots and create a fan base and all of that. Why do you think Grey's has been able to maintain its status?
You know, it's funny. I think, well, it's twofold. First of all, we've been on the air so long. So many of our original fans have stuck with us forever. Like they have real deep, meaningful, intimate relationships with the characters on our show.
Yeah.
But then there's also this really interesting phenomenon of all of these new young viewers who are discovering our show like on Netflix and binging it like crazy. And I think the same is true though. I think that, you know, people are able to enter this world through characters they really understand and connect to and want to know better. And on top of that, we've got these really great medical storylines, which like somehow, you know, on a weekly basis manage to illuminate something new about the human psyche and the human experience. So it's, you know, it's a combination of really strong foundational characters and story of the show, and then just, you know, being in a world where we can keep developing out these relationships and watch these people in their personal and professional growth and making mistakes and having their triumphs, and it's I think it's executed just really well in the writing, and it has been consistently over the years.
Yeah, I think all that's so true. I also think there's something intrinsically fascinating about watching people in the medical world, because firstly, the kinds of, I have a really good friend who is an ER surgeon, and so some of her real life stories, which I'm sure you've heard plenty of yourself working on a show about the hospital world, you know, it's just so you can't write the kind of drama that comes into the hospital. But there's also, for the everyday man who is not going to be a doctor and not going to be putting their lives at risk for other people, and can't really stomach, like I could never stomach, you know, some of the things that doctors have to witness or be, you know, partake in or whatever. I think it's so fascinating for all of us to have a view of it, you know what I mean? Like a safer view of it through the lens of watching a TV show about doctors. So, I mean, I just feel like that might be a part of why everyone is still so interested in those stories. As you said, it's so human and it really connects to our own human nature and I don't know, brings a compassion maybe, I hope, to everybody.
I hope so. And I do think that like there's something about the world, any high stakes world, you know, obviously doctors are dealing with life and death stakes almost every single day that they go to work, especially now, you know, and there's something about that experience, watching these characters, these doctors go through that experience, the roller coaster of that emotional experience, that I think allows our audience or people who connect to the show to have the same sort of cathartic journey, you know, that they may need to experience that their everyday lives don't necessarily give them an opportunity to go through, you know, and so they can sort of use our show as that emotional vehicle, and also an opportunity to sort of give voice to their internal experience, you know, to sort of see some story that reflects what's happening, you know, to them internally, whether, you know, obviously most of our viewers are probably not doctors, but still, you know, the humanity of their experience, our character's experience lives within all of us. So
yeah, and it really presents doctors as actual humans, not just people who, you know, come in with a board and tell you things that you either don't want to hear or do want to hear, you know. And right now it is super, I just think with what's going on in the world, you know, it's just been reiterated to all of us how important our hospital workers are, and our doctors and our nurses. And so, you know, I just thank all the people who are doing that for us right now. How do you feel playing Dr. Maggie Pierce, has actually knowing kind of a little bit about being in a hospital setting? And obviously you're an actress, not a doctor, but you end up learning a little bit about that world, you know, to play these kinds of characters. How do you feel playing Dr. Maggie Pierce has influenced your life as Kelly?
Well, man, I think Maggie has so many qualities that I really admire. I mean, namely, she's so super confident about her abilities, and because her abilities are actually they make such a difference in people's lives, you know. It's really inspiring, you know, to just to witness and live her walking into every day with such purpose and determination, and yeah, I think I try to take that away from her. I at least try to use her as an example for that. And yeah, I think that's the main takeaway for me.
That's great. Okay, Pete, I'm going to switch over to you. You're in the hot seat now. I want to get into, so you have, as Ingrid mentioned, you've directed episodes of so many of our favorite television shows, including Grey's, which we will get into. But just as a director myself, I wonder, I always ask directors this question, but what is it about a story that inspires you personally to want to get involved in shepherding that story onto the screen?
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting because when you get hired to do a TV show, you don't know what the story will be. You get a script. If you start on a Monday, hopefully you get it on a Friday. Sometimes you get it on the Thursday past the Monday, but you know, you get it, you read it, and you're trying to understand what the writers are doing thematically, and you're trying to place that within the kind of delivery system of a particular show, because you can hop from Grey's Anatomy to Insecure to Single Parents, and they're all going to be very different. But then ultimately, like, the human experience is a universal one. So I always try and find something about myself in the story that I can tether to those characters. So I can kind of look at what's going on in this medical world or in this world of single parents. You know, I'm not a doctor, I don't have any kids, but I can look at what's going on there. I can understand the themes, and then I can bring my worldview into what the show does. So it's really an opportunity to kind of dive into, you know, putting a spotlight on so many different types of experiences. And also not judging the experiences that we're spotlighting, because, you know, I think as a writer, right? Like, even when you write a villain, the villain does not think that they're a bad person.
True.
Right? And so you have to find the humanity in all of these characters, and then, you know, hopefully you take a little bit of that back into your own life.
Yeah, that's a really good point. As an actor too, you're never, you know, you don't judge your character. You accept, you know, what am I looking for? You support what the character has going on for themselves. So even, yeah, as you said, even like bad characters, don't think they're bad. They're doing what they need to do in order for their worldview to work. So that's interesting as a perspective as a director too. I really like that. And it's true what you said. I mean, you've directed TV, you've directed film. And film and TV as mediums as a director are so different. You just mentioned that as a TV director, you might get something hopefully on a Friday that you have to shoot on a Monday. And so maybe you only have like a couple days of wrapping your head around it. And then you shoot it for what, a week and a half tops, and then you're kind of done and you have to go into post. And so it's a much quicker pace. Whereas a film, you're sort of in it from the conception all the way to the delivery of it. So in terms of that differentiation, what has being such a prevalent TV director, how has that sort of helped your directing craft in general, even on film?
So it's interesting. And for people who direct, this might hit home for general enjoyers of TV. This might hit home as well. But when you when you make a film, so all the films that I made, they were, even if I didn't write them, I was kind of the shepherd or the authority over what would happen. And so, I'm looking at it as a story from A to Z. I've got specific thoughts on the character that we're kind of collaborating, and the we is the talent and myself. I might have an idea. I don't like, I'm trying to find the right words because they have weird semantics to them, but I might have a more appreciated authority on what's going on character-wise in a film. Now, when I go to a TV show, my wife has done 150 episodes of her show, right? So she's gonna be the authority on that character. And I'm coming in with a lot of homework having been done, having watched as much of the show as possible, an idea of how they move through the world. And I'm trying to kind of go back to the first question. I'm trying to find where I can be of support to what these actors do week to week. And maybe something about how I see the world can find a different color in something that's still true to the character, but maybe in the way we can get settled into doing anything, maybe it's a color that might not have been the initial thought, and I can help maybe explore that. And so you have to turn, the thing I say about directing TV is that you actually have to earn the title. Just because it's what it says by your name, like the cast and the crew are not necessarily going to trust you. They're not going to like yield all authority to you, because people can come in week to week and not know what they're doing. And so they have to know that you get the show, that you understand how to achieve the show the way it's meant to be delivered. And that if you're coming with anything that might be new, it's in the spirit of the show, and you're not going to have anyone looking foolish, and it's not going to, the viewer's not going to be like, what just happened in this episode? It's never been like that. So it's a collaboration more so with the writer and the talent on a TV show.
Yeah, that's really cool. I as you were saying that, I was imagining you are kind of fitting into a already pre-made structure where everyone kind of already, everyone knows the show in a way that you might not know because they've been doing it for so long. But your job as a good director is to go in there and support that structure and to keep it standing, but still, paint the room a different color, put your own stamp on it in a sense, right? Because, it can't be too crazy, but so that you have your own kind of artistic and creative flavor in there. So that's a really interesting balance that I'm sure that you bring to all of your work. So Ingrid mentioned your first short was with a little known actress named Kerry Washington, not a big deal. At the time, she probably wasn't as big as she is now, but it sounds like you had kind of a great support all the way from the beginning. So I guess if there's any, do you have a piece of advice for anybody who's kind of starting out, trying to get into that world? And I know there's so many pieces of advice, but
yeah. Well, look, it really does come down to just a few things for me. I think it's I think I say a few things and now I can't think of them, but I think it's about doing the work. So much of like, if someone were to ask me like, oh, well, you like know all these, you've worked with all these people. Well, when I worked with them, we were just about doing work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And if you keep surrounding yourself with people who are about doing the work, at a certain point, you're all going to be working, right? And so like, honestly, you have to have some talent. You have to be self-aware. You have to analyze and kind of look at your mistakes and see where you can grow. And you have to be dedicated to mastering the craft. And you have to be dedicated to building relationships with people, because the reality of what we do is that it's anchored. It's a weird kind of pivot where our careers are anchored more by relationships than talent. But if you nurture the relationships and get to a point where you are able to work, then your talent can build a career. Right? But you can't, if you're just super talented and no one likes you or knows you, go be super talented and tell everybody how you're better than Pete Chatmon, right? And so I think that it's about just working, just really challenging yourself, and about finding your voice. And in this world, you do that on an iPhone. You can do that on, if you don't have Final Draft, you can write a script in Word. You know what I mean? Like there's no buffer between you and creativity. And I think you just have to know that and not be discouraged by people who might judge you en route to your bigger goals. So for those who say, oh, why is it on an iPhone? You say, all right, 10 years from now, you'll be saying, oh, that was such a great short.
Yeah.
It's just a process of you keep going and you keep going.
Absolutely. Those are great. That's great. Honestly, that is great. And I think you're very right there. Collaboration in this medium, collaboration is kind of key, and not judging things is also key. Of course, having high standards and pushing yourself is always a plus, but yeah, I think that those are words to live by. If you work and you work well with others and everyone is a team and we work together towards a common goal, it will happen in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? That's all you can control. You can't control when, and you can't control how big, but you can control that part of it. So that's great. So Pete, you directed Grey's Anatomy, right? Is that so? This is kind of open for both of you guys. Is that how you guys met? Did you guys meet on Grey's?
We did, but it was before Pete was actually hired as a director. He was shadowing another director, Zinga Stewart, the great Zinga Stewart. And so that's how we met. I don't know. I saw him on set and I was like, who dat?
Yeah.
And we just kind of met and found that in our first conversation, that we knew a lot of people in common and sort of had been in some similar circles. And so we had a lot to talk about. We had some good jumping off points, and then kind of hit it off. Yeah.
And Pete, was it the same for you? Did you look over and see her and like, who dat?
Pretty much. And what's funny, as you were talking, I was thinking the first kind of like connective tissue was Kelly had seen a short that I made.
That's
So,
right.
you know what I mean? Like a short that I made because I wanted to make a short. And,
right.
And then that short had gotten picked up by HBO and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so,
And can I add something to that? As a matter of fact, even though I never followed through on it, it was still good advice that I gave myself. I was just scrolling through like HBO shorts just to like see what the up and coming filmmakers were making and who they were. And I was just like literally taking down names of people that I wanted to think about for the future, like I really like this BlackCard short, this guy Pete Chatmon. I should maybe send him an email or reach out to him or see what else he's been up to, just from a professional standpoint.
Yeah.
Like, this is great work. Like I said, I never actually did that, but then he just showed up at my job anyway. So
well, it was kismet. The universe wanted you guys to be together. Is all that means. So then when you did direct, Kelly, were you guys already married or not married yet, but in a relationship?
Yeah, we were dating.
We were dating. We were
the
first one.
I mean, we were definitely dating for
we
the
engaged?
first one. I can't remember if we were engaged.
I got quarantine brain, so everything.
Yeah, I get it.
Like
no, I get
day.
it. I'm also married, and I frequently forget dates.
My whole life existed in 2020, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess my real question is just how was that? How is being directed by?
Hold on, our friend just informed us. Our friend just came into the comments and informed us that we were dating, not engaged.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, friend.
Thank
you, friend. At least someone knows your relationship timeline. That's good. So how was it being directed by your boyfriend?
It was great. You know, the greatest part actually was that I had watched him work, and I knew how much he had prepared and how well he knew not just my show but every show he had worked on up to that point. And so I had such an appreciation. I had never been on the inside of the TV directing process like that before. And so when he came to set, I knew how like well thought through his ideas were, and I knew how much he like understood and had compassion for the characters and everything. So with the exception of like one disagreement about blocking, you know, I was really eager to hear his input on the particular stuff that I did. And actually I wished I had more. I think I was just doing like a few little comic relief scenes in that episode, and I wished I had more meaty stuff for him to work with me on that first time around. But it was great. It was really, really great to watch him in action too, you know, on over the course of a day, over the course of the entire episode, and really, you know, see more.
That's so cool. You felt very like in good hands, in other words. Yeah.
Very much, yes.
And for Pete, was it some? Were you like nervous to I don't know, direct your girlfriend, or I don't know?
Not nervous. You know the thing that I was, I guess, concerned about was not being too familiar. Mm-hmm. It's almost the other. It's like the flip, because look, on any show, there's always an opportunity for people to feel a certain way about what's happening, right? I mean, it even starts at the table reads. Like I tell director friends, like at table reads, don't laugh too hard at anything. Laugh the same at every joke, because you might be striking a fire that you don't understand. You might laugh at another character's joke too loud, and then and then the number 2 on the call sheet is going to be like, why are they getting the better jokes? It's all these things you don't know that you're stepping into. And so I didn't want to appear as if, like, I don't know, not that there's like some like teacher kind of favoritism deal, because it's not that, but I didn't want it to appear like, you know, oh, I'm giving her more takes, or right. Or it's like the notes are 3 minutes instead of 1 minute, you know? And so I kind of just wanted to avoid that. And then at the same time, between us, I also didn't want to use too much shorthand, if that's fair. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really just a dance of like making sure it looks like we're all here as actor and director, and not, you know, there's this one actor where it's like boyfriend, girlfriend,
right,
Beyonce, you know?
Right. Yeah, you got to stay professional, even though there's a personal connection. Yeah, it's interesting because my husband and I work together sometimes, like, you know, on our own things, and you know, it's just depending on if that day he forgot to do the dishes, or I, you know, forgot to take out the trash or whatever. It might come through, and like when I give him direction, he'll be like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Listen, you know, let's save that for later. Okay, we're talking about the scene." So that's great. That's great that you can stay professional while being personal. You guys have been really, really, really wonderful. I want to let the people who are your biggest fans, which you have so many on this chat, I'm seeing all the like lovely comments kind of pop up. I want to give them an opportunity to ask you questions themselves. So just a reminder to anybody watching, if you have any questions for Kelly and Pete, just put them in the chat. And yeah, thank you guys so much. This has been really fun and enlightening and inspirational to me too, as a fellow filmmaker. So thank you so much for all of your wonderful advice and insight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Ingrid, I pass it on to you.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. Thank you so much. So indeed, we have a lot of love messages in the chat, which is always great to see. So for Kelly and Pete, what preparation do you usually do prior to filming an episode?
Okay, well, let's see. It depends. I actually saw a question here about like whether I Google my medical jargon, and sometimes for me that is a jumping off place. If I have an episode that's heavy in medical, I want to know what I'm saying. If I can look up these procedures on YouTube or to see them on Wikipedia, it gives me a sort of context for like, okay, is this like a new innovative thing? Is this a routine kind of a thing? Is it a big deal? Because that tells me the stakes of the situation, the stakes of the moment, and it helps me understand sort of the theme of the episode. And then where the theme of the episode is, I insert my character's journey into that, you know. So I kind of because the medical storylines are sort of they're the guideposts through the episode oftentimes. So that is to answer both of those questions, one of the first places that I start. And, you know, usually we get these scripts not too far in advance. So, you know, you got to get them into your brain. I kind of just focus on memorizing, and then also because I've been playing this character for 6 years, I don't have to do quite so much, you know, imaginative, emotional work to find her approach to the scenes all the time. But sometimes I really do. But to start with, I got to get the words in my mouth. So yeah, and then you find out a lot when you get it on your feet in rehearsal. You find out a lot while you're running lines and hair and makeup with your other scene partners. And yeah, and then you just, you know, try to find the truth and the soul of the character in the moment.
What about you, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, it varies. If it's a show I've never done before, I'm watching every episode of the show so I can get the DNA of the show into me. If it's not that many seasons in, I might watch it 2-3 times. And I'm really like breaking down what happens for each character and then overall for like the themes. Because ultimately a show is not about what happens, it's about the themes that are being explored. And then from there, you know, when I get a script, I read it, probably 50 times. Wow. You know, and I read it in a different place because I respond differently, like in a cafe versus at the kitchen table versus in an office. And then I read it each time as a different department head. So I'll do a read as the production designer and I'll make notes for production design. I'll read it as costume and make notes on wardrobe. I'll read it as a second AD and make notes on extras. You know, because they'll say, oh, it's a party. Well, how many people are at this party? You know what I mean? Like, and so the final pass I do is as a director. And then after that, I go, and that's where I kind of go and give a theme to each scene. And then from there, I have a kind of arc of what's happening in each scene. And then the kind of last pass is going through it as each actor and trying to identify the beats that are kind of going, the beat to beat moments for each actor within a scene. So I can kind of track what is most important. And that's all in defense of when time starts running out, I need to know, like, if I got to get one shot, you know, this is the moment to get, and this is what that moment needs to communicate. And you'll find, like, a lot of times there's all this other gravy that we try and put around a scene, but scenes really come down to like one pivotal moment. And so if I can track that and understand how to communicate that visually, they'll hire me again.
Right. How do they make those surgeries look real, like blood incisions and?
Man, we have a really great visual effects department. That's the department that makes all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Asking him. Yeah, we have a great visual effects department, and our medical props and medical producers. We have actual surgeons who help to inform not only from the standpoint of the writing, but also in constructing the actual surgeries. So, a lot of the stuff that we use is, body parts made out of latex or, God, I don't even know what some of that stuff is made of. Sometimes it's just like styrofoam and jam, but like we have actual medical technicians on set who know how to make it look like the body parts that we need. So it's really TV magic in action. We have some incredibly smart and resourceful people who are also professionals who make it look real.
Yeah. And the flip on my side is, if there's for any surgery in an episode, the 2 that I've done, I actually am shown real video of that thing being done.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty crazy every time. But that helps me kind of understand what's at stake. It also is kind of, I think, anchoring it in a sense of reality. So, it's not like some hocus pocus thing that they've made up, which is always amazing. And then from there, I kind of do a bit of a dance with Linda Klein, who kind of guides the medical, which is, okay, I understand, like, that person's supposed to stand there, and then this one here, and then that machine's there, but will it really mess anything up if I flip it? Because I want to shoot it from over here, and I'm going to do this like transition off of it, and I'm trying to connect these 2 characters to communicate a moment. So if it's okay, I like to do it my way. But oftentimes sometimes they'll be like, yeah, that's fine, and then others they'll be like, no, we can't have, that's like totally not it. We can't have people emailing us talking about like, you didn't even have the right machine in there for surgery, Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Linda Klein is our is sort of in charge of that, and she, they're just really amazing at making all the right cheats, because obviously we're not performing. Some of these surgeries are hours long, and we're shooting 5 minutes of them at the most, and so we have to connect the moments of the surgery. Sometimes she really has to put her foot down and go like, there could never be a clamp there, she can't say clamp, so it's they're really, really dedicated to keeping us looking honest, because we don't want to disrespect the profession.
Right.
Absolutely. Kelly, a lot of people love your earrings, by the way.
Oh, thank you. These are a gift. I got to shout out my friend Priscilla Ochen. She brought these back for me from Uganda.
Yeah, they're beautiful. A question for Kelly from Alissa Noel is asking, one thing I love about Maggie's character is her confidence and independence. What has inspired you to bring that to the character?
I think it's her origin story, right? So she is a person who grew up in a loving home far away, and was very, very successful in making her way in the world sort of without any difficulty. And she found out something interesting about herself, that, about her adoptive mother, and then moved across country, completely uprooted her life, and really wanted to invest in this new family. And I think that takes a lot of bravery, and I think it takes a lot of vulnerability. And so I draw it from her, I draw it from what I understand about how she wound up in this place, and therefore what, her journey of growth, and what challenges she'll face on her journey of growth. So that's where I get it.
A question for Pete. What episode did you direct? Do you remember the names?
It was Team 16, Blood and Water. I think that was the title of it. And then I did Whistling Through the Graveyard, which was the Halloween episode this year.
Actually, someone already responded in the chat. They're all talking to each other. That's good. Responding to questions. That makes my job easier. How was the transition from directing drama to comedy? Do you have a preference?
You know, that's a great question. I actually, I don't have a preference. I prefer, I say this all the time. I feel like any drama needs comedy and levity to avoid becoming an after-school special. And then any comedy, at least let's say an episode of Blackish is 18 minutes of comedy, but then the final 2 minutes is about the really serious, dramatic reason why they wrote the episode. And so I find that because I do both, I feel I'm able to execute well on both, because I can kind of go to the toolkit for the right device based on the moment. So more than anything, I'm kind of governed by, is it a good story? Is it a story well told? And how can I use the craft that I've, been taught and spent time developing to tell that story? In the same way that, not to minimize it, but I kind of view it like, if you're an architect, you're not, you can do what you want, I guess, but you typically won't say, I only built 3-story homes, and I don't do half baths, like I feel like you just kind of work to use the kit of a storyteller to execute. And I think those lines are becoming more and more blurred now with more streaming content, more getting out of the kind of traditional network model is allowing people to mesh genre and mesh tone in a way that is drawing new audiences, because everybody's so fluent in their understanding of story that they can deal with a satirical dark comedy with a romance core. You know what I mean? And so everything kind of evolves.
What is your advice? So you worked on HBO shows, and what is your advice on how you or the team pitched to HBO for your short?
Well, the short was picked up via a film festival that they partnered with. So it was that festival selection that got me in at least on their radar. And then from there, I got in the family further. I shadowed on Ballers and Silicon Valley, and finally the first job I got was this show within the show on Insecure season 2 called Due North, which all the characters in the show watch and kind of comment about. So that was kind of growing with that family, so which goes back to relationships, You're
right. Haley's asking, Kelly, how have you stayed in touch with anyone from the Grey's Anatomy cast during quarantine?
Yeah. I mean, I've touched base with, I think, pretty much everybody at some point. But yeah, I mean, we stopped shooting pretty abruptly. So there was a lot of checking in going on at the beginning.
That's good.
Especially.
Another one, let's see, because time is running out. Kelly, what has been your favorite scene or episodes of Grey's?
One of my favorite scenes was the one, oh God, what season was it? Oh, someone will tell me in the comments, I'm sure. It was when Maggie explained white privilege to Amelia. That was one of my favorite scenes. That was, it was a really tricky thing. Grey's had never actually directly addressed race using the language of the characters, using words. Obviously there were a lot of storylines, the existence of, Christina Yang and oh God, Burke and, doctors of color in a certain space. It was revolutionary to see, those characters on TV, but they hadn't like talked about that. So it was cool to be in part of that groundbreaking moment where we kind of went at something really directly. And what else? I mean, obviously the storyline with Maggie's, oh, thank you. Somebody said episode 12, episode 7, something against you. I loved working with LaTanya Richardson on Maggie's mom storyline. I so wish that she had not, spoiler alert, that she hadn't died so soon, because I would have loved to keep working with LaTanya. And I really love, the sister scenes with Amelia and Meredith. That's such like fun material. It's so like illuminating about these characters, because you get into their those are sort of like the drama-free moments, where it's like, it's just play, and it's a respite from the drama of their work or the drama of their relationships or what, and it's just like fun sort of moments of getting into the interior lives of those characters. So I don't know, I have a lot. I mean, I've done,
I'm sure there's so many
7,000 episodes of the show.
Yeah. As a director, Pete, how do you discern what notes to accept and which ones to push back on?
Well, the first thing is that, and I think being a writer helps. I feel like I think this is the biggest challenge. That's a great question. I think the biggest challenge for directors, particularly entering into television, is how they navigate the question you just said. Because you have to understand that it's not your show. So there are things that, like, there are jokes that I've directed that weren't that funny to me, but you know what I mean? But like, it's part of the show and it's the humor of the show. And I just have to ensure that what the show thinks is funny gets shot on videotape, right?
And it's
funny. So, I'm there to download what the writer and the showrunner are trying to accomplish. I'm there to kind of guide that, communicate that, ensure that we land in that place. If there's anything that I absolutely don't agree with or co-sign, sometimes I'll have someone else give the note. Oh, well, you can, in this one circumstance, why don't you go tell that actor? Because I don't want to walk up and give a note that they can tell I don't agree with. And I want them to know that when it comes from me, I agree with, I believe what I'm saying. And so, yeah, I mean, it's kind of navigating that. But at the end of the day, it's really just about being of service to that story. And if you aren't, I think maybe the real question or the real answer here is, if it's a show you don't get or you don't like, you probably shouldn't direct it, because you're gonna spend all day feeling like you're a hostage to this vision that you don't buy into.
Right. So
can I answer one thing really quick too? I see a question that's coming up.
Yeah, please.
Repeatedly about shadowing me.
Yeah.
There is, the way that I shadowed, I went through directing programs. So there are, if you go to dga.org, there's a diversity link and you can figure out what the directing programs are there. No director can just bring someone on to shadow. It's never going to happen, because we are a guest on the shows that we direct. So when I did the 10 shadowing experiences that I did, the showrunners had approved me, the network had approved me, and the production companies had approved me. No one ever just brought me in. So you have to pursue these programs and or find folks from within the show that can facilitate that. So if you know an actor who's got the pull, or the showrunner, or a producer or producing director, that would be the way to get in, not through a director, because basically we're invited. We're like a chef invited to cook a dinner at your house. We come to cook. We don't bring additional people. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts on that. But the other thing too is the more work you do, the more opportunity you give for people to see what you're doing. And sometimes, you know, you'll find yourself answering a door versus ringing a doorbell.
Yeah, thank you for those advice. Actually, I just wanted to ask, to close on this discussion, just wanted to ask you do more than your acting and directing work, and you're also an advocate for many different causes, and especially you, Kelly, you're part of social equal justice. I wanted to ask you about your work as an advocate, and recently there has been a lot of really difficult things that happen in the news, and we know what they are. And as African Americans, as Black people, I want you to talk about this, if we can close on that today, and anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we close this conversation.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, our world is plagued with more social ills than any one of us can possibly you know, affect change on. But I guess it's overwhelming, you know. I mean, particularly if you're a sensitive person, and particularly when it's happening to your own people, when things are happening to your own people that seem beyond your control. But my approach is just that I try to do what I can, you know. People ask for my help or advocacy and about a lot of different things, and so it really just becomes like a where can I be of the most use and help, and, you know, with the time that I have, and there's, I don't know, it's, you know, there's so many things that I care about, and we none of us can do everything. So you just, the point though that I'm trying to make is that you kind of get in where you fit in and try to do something. And things that I care about and very concerned about are voting rights and getting out the vote, and also implicit bias, unconscious bias, the very thing that Maggie was talking to Amelia about in that episode, that causes us to institutionalize our prejudices and codify racism into law and into our social structures. So that's what the work of Equal Justice Society is trying to dismantle. And I feel like illuminating implicit bias, helping everybody understand that we're all a little bit racist. Some of us are more racist than others. We can't help it. It's the way that we are socially engineered to be, and to grow more and more compassion and more willingness to look within ourselves at our habits and the way that we act out those prejudices, then I feel like that's transformative work that I want to be a part of.
Thank you. Anything else that you want to add, Pete?
I mean, no, it would pale in value to what was just mentioned. I think that I mean, my main thing has really just been, you know, I like talks like these because I like I don't know, reminding people or sharing with folks that it is a journey. You know, these creative journeys are particularly nuanced. They are not reflective of having a clear path. It's really just about staying dedicated and working hard, and, you know, at a certain level, finding out how to be your best creative self. There's a Miles Davis quote where he says, "It took me years to learn how to play like myself." And I think that is the journey of the creative, to know that, to not get discouraged along the way, to be self-reflective and not assume that everybody's out to get you. You know, there will be a time when it pivots, as long as you don't get off the treadmill. For me personally, I'm experiencing that now, where, you know, people call me and ask me for jobs and don't remember 2 years ago I sat in their office trying to get one. Like, literally was in front of your face. You know what I mean? But that's just the way that it goes. And at the end of the day, you know, just really try and find what you want to say and say it well.
Wow, thank you so much for these words of encouragement and wisdom. It's great to close our talk today with these words. You truly inspired us, as Emma said, your examples. And thank you for coming on our show to speak to your audience. These are great advice for even if you are a young filmmaker or established filmmaker. It's great to hear the stories from people like you. So thank you again, Kelly and Pete, for joining us. And thank you, Emma, again, for moderating this great conversation for us all. Please join us. Let me actually add right now again, and I've been adding it several times, but I added in the chat box here all the links for Pete, Kelly, and Emma's website and also Instagram. So please, please, please follow them. Stay in touch with them on Instagram and social media. They're also on Twitter and Facebook. And please join us next Friday, May 22nd. At 12 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to talk about La Casa de Papel, which is a hit Netflix show that is also called Money Heist. We're going to be joined by the stars and the creators of that show, so it should be interesting. It will be in Spanish and English. So for all the Spanish speakers in Los Angeles and also in New York City, please come join us. And the replay of today's talk will be on our Chelsea Film Festival YouTube channel. And please stay safe and healthy during these times. Keep being inspired, and follow again our guest, our wonderful guest and moderator. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great to see you, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Same to you. Stay well. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You're so welcome.
Thank you so much.